how do you know it was me that killed him? It wasn't. I never even killed him.
And what was it you told us?
That I killed James. So we walked up to him and we were walking around with him and I took his hand.
And whose idea was it to walk towards him?
Mine.
Was it?
Then it was Robert's idea to kill him. And we went outside to take him out.
What for?
Don't know, he said let's throw him in the water. He was persuading him. He said kneel down and let's look at the water and all that, but he wouldn't. Because when we wouldn't get him down, Robert picked him up and threw him on the floor, and that's where he got his bump on his head. This is a strange one. We took him on the rail and started throwing bricks at him. He was just lying there.
The recording you just heard is the chilling interview of two murderers. But what shocked the whole UK was, the perpetrators were two 10-year-old children. On the 12th of February 1993, in the middle of a crowded shopping mall in the port city of Liverpool, England, a 2-year-old boy disappeared in a split second while walking with his mother. Security camera footage later captured the seemingly harmless moment, James Bulger holding the hands of two older children, quietly walking out of the store. No one expected that those would be the last steps in his life. James Patrick Bulger, born on the 16th of March 1990 in the town of Kirkby, Merseyside, England. He was the only child of Denise and Ralph Bulger, just 2 years old, the hope and simple happiness of the family. Robert Thompson and Jon Venables, both born in 1982 and just were only 10 years old when their names became the focus of the whole of England. Robert and Jon's childhood was not as peaceful as other children. Both grew up in dysfunctional families, lacking care and stability. Robert was the youngest of 6 siblings. His father left, his mother often fell into alcoholism. Jon was no better. His parents separated. He often witnessed fierce arguments. And that environment sowed the seeds of instability in the soul of a child just 10 years old. Both of them showed signs of abnormality early on. They often skipped school, liked to watch violent scenes, vandalism and petty theft. Once, Robert was caught torturing animals, a small act but somewhat reflected the coldness and potential danger. On the fateful day, the 12th of February 1993, instead of going to class, Robert and Jon wandered into the New Strand shopping center. But this time, they were not just looking to steal a few items petty. They discussed and decided to catch a child, a haunting game whose consequences were beyond anyone's imagination. On the afternoon of the 12th of February 1993, the atmosphere at New Strand Shopping Center, Bootle, was bustling as usual. In the moment, Denise, James Bulger's mother, had just taken her eyes off the counter to pay. Fate struck. Robert Thompson and Jon Venables, 2 boys aged only 10, quietly approached James. They lured him with sweets and sweet words, then took his hand and led him out of the supermarket. It all happened in just a few short minutes, enough for CCTV to capture the fateful image. Little James, squeezed between 2 older children, leaving the shopping center. After leaving the supermarket, they began a journey of nearly 4 kilometers, leading James through crowded streets, across a bridge, and stopping at many places. On the way, James sobbed and fell many times. He fell to the ground, his knees bleeding. The boy tried to hold on, hoping to return to his mother, but all his efforts were in vain. The scary thing was that more than 30 people had witnessed the scene with their own eyes, a tiny child crying, staggering between 2 other boys. But everyone was indifferent, thinking that these were just brothers walking together, and no one stopped to intervene. When they approached the Walton Railway tracks, the true nature of the kidnapping game was revealed. Robert and Jon turned James into a sick pastime. They began to brutally torture him, throwing rocks at James, beating him repeatedly with bricks and iron bars. While torturing him, they also poured green paint into his eyes, as if to turn him into a twisted game. The final blow, a strong blow to the head, made James collapse, unconscious. Without stopping, they dragged the small body to the railway tracks, placed it on cold iron bars and piled rocks on top. Their purpose was to create a fake scene so that when the train passed, James's death would be treated as an accident. Then, the 2 left, leaving behind a barbaric crime whose consequences they, at the age of 10, did not fully understand. 2 days later, James's body was discovered in a horrific state. The injuries on his body showed unimaginable cruelty. The case not only took the life of a two-month-old boy, but also shattered the social belief that children, sometimes, could also become the embodiment of evil. 2 days after James's disappearance, on the 14th of February 1993, a group of teenagers passing by the railway tracks in Walton accidentally discovered the boy's body. The scene was too gruesome. The small body was deformed, many wounds crisscrossed, and the clothes were stained with blood. Immediately, Merseyside police launched a large-scale investigation, treating this as one of the most serious cases. The turning point came from the CCTV system in the New Strand shopping center. When the security footage was reviewed, police discovered a chilling recording: James Bulger holding the hand of an older boy, walking out of the supermarket. Next to him was another boy. The image was blurry but clear enough to recognize the key figures. Police immediately released this CCTV footage nationwide, calling on people to identify him. In less than 48 hours, a flurry of calls helped the police narrow down the suspects. Many people recognized the two boys in the video as Robert Thompson and Jon Venables, elementary school students in the same area. On the 18th of February 1993, both were arrested. This news shocked the world. The two main perpetrators of a brutal murder were only 10 years old. In the interrogation room, the personality differences between the two children were clearly revealed. Jon Venables cried, panicked, always tried to blame Robert, saying it was all because of him. Meanwhile, Robert Thompson remained coldly calm, persistently denied, even tried to twist the story to hide his actions. However, the physical evidence was undeniable. On both of their clothes, forensic experts found traces of blood and blue paint, matching the scene and James's injuries. Their testimonies were constantly contradictory, sometimes admitting, sometimes denying, making the crime more and more obvious. Finally, the police had enough grounds to charge Robert Thompson and Jon Venables with premeditated murder.
Where did the stones in the bar hit him?
In the head.
And you said the bar knocked him out?
Yeah. Onto the railway track.
What happened then?
No, he was just lying there.
The investigation was quickly closed, but its echoes opened a new controversial chapter in British legal history: how to try two children who were only 10 years old, but had committed one of the most brutal crimes of modern times. On the 24th of November 1993, Preston Crown Court officially opened the trial of James Bulger. This event quickly became the focus of global press, because for the first time in modern British history, two children only 11 years old stood in the dock for murder. At the trial, Robert Thompson and Jon Venables were tried as adult defendants, instead of being fully protected by juvenile law. The decision was controversial, but the prosecutor stressed that the brutality and calculation in the case far exceeded the innocence of childhood. Throughout the trial, Robert Thompson remained cold, rarely showing emotion, while Jon Venables cried several times. Both tried to deny responsibility, constantly blaming each other. However, forensic evidence, CCTV, and testimony from witnesses and experts exposed the whole truth. The jury concluded that James Bulger's death was the result of intentional, coordinated, and calculated murder. Both were sentenced to indefinite detention in a juvenile correctional facility with an initial minimum term of 8 years. After public pressure, the minimum term was raised to 10 years. In 2001, after serving 8.5 years, Robert Thompson and Jon Venables were released. The British government gave them new identities, new passports, and absolute protection to reintegrate into society. This was a shocking decision, as many people believed that such a crime could never be erased by changing their names. Reality proved that this fear was not unfounded. In the years that followed, Jon Venables continued to be involved in scandals, the most serious of which was his arrest for possessing child pornography in 2010, forcing the government to send him back to prison. This incident further angered public opinion, who believed that justice was too lenient towards those who had taken the life of an innocent child. The James Bulger case left a painful scar in the social consciousness of Britain and the world. The fact that two 10-year-olds could commit such a barbaric crime challenged the entire concept of childhood, innocence, and the ability of minors to distinguish right from wrong. Since the verdict was announced, a fierce debate has erupted. Should children, as young as 10, be tried as adults? One side believes that the crime was so brutal that a public trial is necessary to affirm the strictness of the law. But the other side believes that the two boys were also victims of a toxic environment, a broken family, lax education, and an indifferent society. James's parents, especially Denise Fergus, have never recovered from their pain. For many years she has fought tirelessly, calling for justice for her son, opposing the decision to pardon and give new identities to those who took James's life. For her, allowing them to be reborn under another name is an insult to the memory of her son. Public concerns became even more well-founded when Jon Venables reoffended. In 2010, he was arrested for possessing child pornography, sparking public outrage. Could it be that protection and the granting of new identities only gave the evil a chance to return under a cloak of safety? More than 3 decades have passed, but the name James Bulger remains a tragic symbol, a reminder that public indifference, when dozens of people saw it but did not intervene, also contributed to the tragedy. The case also warns of the negative effects of a violent environment, broken families, and lax social management. More than 3 decades have passed, but the name James Bulger remains a tragic symbol, a reminder that community indifference, when dozens of people watched but did not intervene, also contributed to the tragedy. The case also warns of the negative effects of a violent environment, broken families, and lax social management. James Bulger, a boy just 22 months old, passed away in pain. But his story continues to live on, as a haunting reminder that evil can sometimes sprout from the most unexpected places, right in the hearts of children. The James Bulger case is not only a personal tragedy, but also a mirror of society. It forces us to ask painful questions. A 10-year-old child commits a barbaric crime. Is it an inherent evil, or is it the result of a distorted childhood lacking protection and guidance? How much responsibility should society bear when dozens of people saw James being led away, but no one stepped in to help? And finally, is justice really served when the perpetrator is given a new identity to live as a different person, while the victim's family forever lives in loss? The story of James Bulger is not only to be told, but also to remind us of the fragile nature of childhood, the responsibility of family, school, and the community. And what about you? What do you think about the sentence for Robert Thompson and Jon Venables? Has justice been served, or has society been too lenient? Leave a comment below to share your views. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next true crime stories that we will send to you.